Spotify has created me a playlist entitled Funeral Doom, and honestly, that feels quite apt. Hi everyone, my name is Charlie, and today we are starting another reading vlog. I can't tell you whether we will be reading much this week. However, I did continue reading The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan yesterday, which I've been talking about for around a month now, because Charlie chose this book for me to read in December, and now we're at the end of January. I have another book to read for the Charlie Challenge for January, and she's challenging me with another book tomorrow. You know what? I just like being behind. I didn't actually read much yesterday. I intended to. I brought the book downstairs and everything, but then I found out that I had 2 episodes of 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown. Watched them with my mother. Heard that this storm was coming, so chose to walk the dog early. Did that. Met some friends that I hadn't seen in 6 years. I said to them, if you waited till September, we could have gone for the Magic 7. Then when I got home, I was watching the snooker. That finished, practiced some Italian, made tea, and then the snooker was back on. But I was in the bath by then. Listened to June Whitfield's This Marple, the episode, well, it's the radio dramas from the 90s, and this one in particular was They Do It With Mirrors. I won't be listening to any more, it goes offline either today or tomorrow, but I found that I actually don't care for this adaptation as much as I do others. I prefer the radio plays for Murder at the Vicarage, at Bertram's Hotel, 450 from Paddington. There's some good ones that still have the play element, but it felt as though this one, there was a lot of talking and narration as opposed to any actual story, because they're trying to get all these characters in and all this backstory. It just felt like a lot to listen to in half an hour. So I only read for an hour and have made it to the 400 mark, which means I've got 260 pages left, which I'll hopefully read some more today. I obviously still have writing to do, and this was one of the books I was avoiding because I enjoy reading this, and I could very easily read this and not do any writing, but we'll see what mood I'm in. Part of me really wants to get this book finished being read, but I also want to finish the book I'm writing. The chapters that I read of this book yesterday were full of magic, full of character, and made me appreciate one character even more, but I still think the protagonist of these books is just incredibly stupid and incredibly arrogant. He fits the, like, he's supposed to be this young farmhand who's being thrust into this, as most protagonists are in fantasy. Robert Jordan has captured the arrogance and stupidity of young men incredibly well. I can call other young men arrogant and stupid, especially the fictional ones, and this one, there was clearly something dark and malevolent going on, and somebody turned up, and just because they were beautiful, he thought that they couldn't possibly be up to no good. As soon as this person stepped onto the page, I knew that they were no good. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but I am certain of it. Also, got into work today, and I always park closest to our container, and somebody has parked his motorbike there, which means he has his motorbike here and his Range Rover here. So I had to park in the space I used to park in, and if anybody has a go at me about that, well, I probably won't do anything, because I'm not a confrontational person, unless somebody really annoys me. I can be confrontational, I just don't like it. It's not something that I like to get into. Because some people can cope with just confronting a person and telling them when they're wrong. You know, like telling somebody to get their kitchen sorted before they start coming and calling your life a mess, that sort of thing. However, I just go straight for the insults. And I can be insulting. Sometimes by accident. I told somebody the other day, do you know, when you concentrate, all of the wrinkles on your face come forward, and so all of your features actually fold in on themselves. I was just telling them something, and it was only when I finished saying that sentence that I realised how insulting that could be. So this week, reading, writing, and we did do some arithmetic because we did the numbers rounds on Countdown. Has the cough disappeared? No. No on cough mixture for it. Don't think that's going to work. Just avoiding ringing the doctor. I will ring the doctor though if we get too close to Poems and Pints and it hasn't gone then. This is the start of the week. Not sure what it's going to bring, but que sera, sera. The hood's back up to hide the hair. It's now 3 o'clock on Tuesday, and it has been a rather bleak wet day today, so I decided that I was going to spend it writing and reading. The former has happened, not so much the latter. However, I did get over 2,000 words done, I got another chapter finished, and I am happy with the progress. I didn't know until last night how this scene was going to end. It's been one of those that I've been mulling over, because I think I mentioned last week how I was concerned that two scenes had started off quite similar, and last night I began having this other worry that I needed to include more interrogations within this book, and I might need to do that. I need to stop getting mired by what I think needs to be earlier and just get the book written, which has been the case. You know, I've been talking about this the entirety of the time, is stop mulling over what's happened before and just get on with it. My main focus now is going to be not reading, which it should be. I'm going to be listening to an audiobook, because one thing I wanted to do for a while is go through my shelves, see how many books I have unread, and unhaul a few and just tidy up my room. It's been a complete mess for months now, ever since the people came to replace the windows. A few of my books have actually got damp, because regardless of having new windows, there's been a really big issue with that in my room, so I want to see whether I can fix that somehow. I don't know. I am planning on buying a dehumidifier anyway, but I just need to consolidate things and make it more manageable, and look at the stacks of books that I've accumulated and see whether I am actually interested in them, or whether I got them because somebody else had liked them and I thought that I should keep them just in case. They're my just in case books, and maybe I should get rid of the just in case books. I don't know. I am going to get rid of some clothes too. I was talking to Charlie about that this morning, because I was saying how when I first lost weight, I just was so excited by the fact that I was now able to buy stuff from shops, that I kind of acquired a lot from the charity shop. And I tend to go around in the same outfits. I'm worse than Lizzie McGuire. I'm an outfit repeater over here. I need to get rid of a few things. I have three jumpers that are exactly the same. Sally's currently very unhappy with me because we aren't going out today, and she doesn't like the rain, so I don't understand. Well, I get why she's unhappy. She's unhappy with the rain, but she knows she wouldn't like to go out. I don't know. It's a whole thing. I do want to get some reading done. The scenes I read in The Great Hunt last night, I just adored. I read this book and I read this series, and everything that happens, it's just, as I keep saying, it's comfortable to read. I don't say this to be mean when I say it, but there's nothing new or groundbreaking happening. There might have been at the time when this book came out, and a lot of people might have tried to emulate Robert Jordan over the years, which is why I've ended up seeing what's happening within the pages before. It's a staple of the fantasy genre, and I can definitely see where it has inspired later writers. Sometimes I don't think it necessarily does female relationships and friendships very well. One point recently, we had all of these women annoyed with each other because they all seemingly fancied the protagonist. There is a lot of this thinking about love and relationships, and it's like, is this the only thing you can have your female characters think about? At the same time, they are currently the only people who can possess a certain type of magic within the world. I think it's an important thing to recognise the faults in something, or what I perceive to be faults in something, and still admit that I am enjoying it for the most part. And when I do actually sit down and knuckle down and read it, I enjoy it. But I really do just want to get my room sorted, so I'm going to put on an audiobook. I don't know what yet. I was going to try a Tom Hindle because I was considering unhauling the copy I'd got, but then I heard the narrator and I thought, no, I wouldn't get on with this narrator. But I do have a lot of audiobooks to be getting on with. I read some more of The Great Hunt last night. I have 180 pages left of this book. Part of me wants to blitz through it and get it all done today, but part of my mind is also very much focused on writing. Last night I ended up in another quandary with the writing. There's this worry that the tale is going to end up being repetitive, especially the way in which I've had the mystery be solved. I want to change what I have had planned for a while now in terms of the ending, because I think that what I've written is too similar to An Heir to Murder. I feel like if I stick with the ending the way that it is, then it's a bit too cliche and too damsel in distress. So I need to work that out. In terms of The Great Hunt, my goodness, a lot happened last night. I'm wondering if this is going to be the way that Robert Jordan writes. One of the things that I have enjoyed about the books is that usually you can read a chapter and they're so episodic that you can read a chapter and end it there and then just go back the next day and continue the story. And I have particularly enjoyed doing that, whilst I've read other books, just dipping in and out of the Robert Jordan because it's been episodic and like, yeah, this is happening, this is great. Last night when I was reading, stuff was happening that I think had been referenced in the prelude to this book. I was finished a chapter and I thought, well, I can't leave things there because that was almost a cliffhanger. And so it was just kind of this thing of I had to keep reading to find out what was going to happen just so that I could go to bed. And then when I saw that the next chapter was going to move on to some other characters, I was like, there we go. I also got to see a different part of the world than I have seen. Very sinister already. Very terrified about what's going to happen to the characters because I know that the characters are going to have to get to this place. There's only 180 pages left and I'm thinking, how are we going to get through the rest of the story that you presented here in these 180 pages? And I'm a bit worried about the characters. In this new land, we got to see what they do to magical women, which is something completely different than we've seen in the rest of the world. And I think, well, definitely something's going to happen here with one of the characters we know because they won't introduce this new aspect if they weren't going to explore it. So that scares me. But one aspect of the last few chapters I've been reading was that the gang was all back together. It is something that happens regularly in fantasy novels, and I think that authors do it so that they can explore the world in greater depth and also allow the characters to grow on their own before coming back together. You know, Truth Witch by Susan Dennard does it, where the two female friends are together at the start of the first book, but then we don't really see them together again until the end of the fourth book. It happens in basically every fantasy novel. The characters get separated and have to go off and learn who they are separately before they come back together. But I'm not somebody who likes that. I don't. I like to see the characters interacting with each other throughout and getting to work everything out together. And I know that might not work out for readers and you might not get to see the characters so fully explored, but I just like to see the gang all together. I don't like it when you separate them. I don't like to see them separately. Saying that though, in the second cozy crime novel, and this is a spoiler, but don't worry about it, Alice and Duke don't really spend that much time together in this novel. They go their separate ways at one point. So I don't know why I have a problem with it in the fan. Well, it's not a problem. I don't, I still read it and I still really enjoy it. Otherwise today, it's windy, but it's not raining. So there's a chance that I will be taking Sally out for a walk. I'm hoping to get up to the forest because we haven't done that for a while. Due to the snow last week, we did the same walk every day and the rain yesterday. So I think I might just go up to the forest. I might see you tomorrow. I might not. It depends how busy we are. If not, I'll see you Friday. And we're back at work. No recording yesterday, for my father was ill, and so we couldn't really go into his room. Luckily, the sneezing had stopped by yesterday. I think you can only tell a little bit in Friday's video that I might have been sneezing a bit. Just one clip when I'm talking about the first book. Maybe more, maybe, I don't know. All I do know is that now it's Friday. And I didn't finish The Great Hunt like I'd hoped to, which means that this is going to be a one book reading vlog, one book weekly vlog. Due to all the sneezing on Wednesday, I just felt like I couldn't really read because every time I'd open the book, I'd be sneezing. I also took Sally for a longer walk around Mac Forest. We haven't been able to do that for a while due to recent snow and then rain. Thursday, I had been walking around the forest because I'd realised that the scene that I was planning to be the end scene of the second Alice Valentine book is actually a carbon copy of the first book, and therefore I was working on re-planning that, and I think I've got it now. It does mean going back and adding a few little bits here and there that'll work as foreshadowing, but that's fine. I think that I have to accept the new way of me writing, which is actually having to go back and make structural edits, which we have done before, but I never like them. And in terms of The Great Hunt, yesterday I slowed down my reading because I am completely certain that something terrible is about to happen to characters, because I don't trust one of the, I've never pronounced it, so I'm not going to try and pronounce it, but one of the magical women. I have never trusted her. I don't think I'm supposed to trust her. And she's just led specific characters to a place. And I've seen the title of the next chapter and I just felt really uneasy. And I thought, I can't go to bed when there's 100 pages left. I can't go to bed with all of this terrible stuff happening and then not knowing how it's going to turn out. So I decided that I was going to wait, and I just eked it out. I was even putting the book down and just going to my phone and mindlessly scrolling through social media, and it's not like anything terrible was happening. It was just to abate the unease that I was feeling. I'm not sure that I like the way that Robert Jordan writes women, because they've been taken on this quest to go and help the protagonist. They think all they talk about is him and how they all have a romantic interest in him, and all these women ever talk about is their possible romantic liaisons with these men. I'm like, these women are learning how to be some of the most powerful magical women in the world. Why don't they ever talk about that? Why don't they talk about some of the politics that are going on? In fact, like the one time they plan on bringing up the politics, somebody else shuts them down. I'm just like, why? I don't need another conversation about how much you fancy Rand. Just like, give me some of your personality. I know it's not the characters, I know it's the writer, but I get frustrated by it. So I'm not going to be finishing that today either, because as I say, I've got 100 pages left. I think I'll probably read more today, read more tomorrow, and then finish it on Sunday, whereas I was hoping to have finished it on Wednesday to then read the other book that Charlie picked for me for January. But you know, when have I ever done anything on time? I did manage to read quite a few books this month, and so that I've managed to get one of the longer books off my shelves read feels like an accomplishment anyway. Well, it will do once it's finished, and hopefully I continue to be just as stressed out by it and just as worrisome about the characters. You see, that could also happen. I could end some, like, this terrible thing that I'm certain is going to happen could happen. I could end up reading the entire thing because I can't cope with the tension. That is also a thing. But that's that really. I now need to practice some Italian before anybody gets here, so I'm going to go and try and do that. I will probably see you tomorrow to put an end to these proceedings. We didn't finish reading a book this week. I only had 400 pages left of The Great Hunt at the start of the week, and now I have 60 pages left. What I thought would happen did happen, and how I managed to stop myself from reading on further, I do not know. Well, I do know, I just ended up feeling somewhat tired and went to bed an hour earlier than usual. Oh my goodness, maybe it's true that when you get to your 30s, you just start sleeping earlier. I don't know. Either way, as I say, the terrible thing I expected to happen in The Great Hunt did happen, and I wasn't shocked, but I was bamboozled. It's something I didn't expect with Robert Jordan. I did not expect the torture of his characters in the way in which Robin Hobb tortures her characters. I suppose in terms of Robin Hobb, she was a bit more explicit on the page, and Robert Jordan does seem to hold back slightly, but he does still tell you what happened. And we've gone from flayed bodies to this. Just think, there's another 12 books to read after this. How much darker is it going to get? Part of me is thinking, how have I not managed to finish reading this book this week? Because I didn't go for a walk on Tuesday, but I did write and I did read. It was Wednesday. Wednesday is the one that pushed us back. If we look at the reading that I have been doing, I have been reading at least 3 short books every week so far this year. So the fact that I didn't manage to finish this annoys me somewhat. It'll get finished today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. I just don't understand why, when it comes to a bigger book that I know I could finish in a week, I don't do it. Like I say, I think that one of the factors this week was just trying to get the book written a bit more. Sneezing happened. Let's blame it all on the sneezing on Wednesday. I'm glad to have read this. As I've kept mentioning throughout the week, I'm not a fan of the way that Robert Jordan treats his female characters. I don't like the way that he writes women. There are some very interesting female characters within the story that I wish they would explore further. However, every time they're on their own, they're always thinking about the main male protagonist, and I like that there are female friendships in here. I don't like that they're always just talking about men. We do see the men moon over the women, that's fine, and looking at their ages can kind of understand it. However, they also talk about the bigger picture and what else is going on in the world, and the only time one of the women started talking about this, they got shot down. I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me. Maybe it'll change in future books, I don't know, but at the moment it's not sitting right with me. As much as I enjoy reading the series and I find them comfortable to read, and it's nostalgic fantasy that makes me smile and makes me think about stuff, it makes me think about like the magical shows and things that I used to watch, I do find myself reminded of a lot of other fantasy series that have come out since this book that I'm certain must have been inspired in some part by Robert Jordan's world building and his prose, and I like being able to build those connections and see where something came from and where an author might have been inspired. There's certain aspects that just don't work for me, which I think is perfectly fine, and I think that we would find in any book. I always end up finding stuff in some of my favourite books that I don't like, so I don't know that I'll push it aside. I will keep it in my mind. I don't know when I will be getting to the next book, simply because Charlie and I are trying to focus on reading the books from our shelves, and that would mean purchasing another book, and having counted the books and knowing what number I want to get it to, we'll see how I feel in a month. That's been my week. I didn't finish reading The Great Hunt, and I didn't finish writing the cozy crime novel, so it's just a week of an alternative type of DNF. If you've read The Great Hunt, or indeed if you've read the Wheel of Time series and would like to discuss aspects without spoilers, but what I might have referenced in this video, then please feel free to do so in the comments. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, because until next time, that is all.